This is the Natural Resource Inventory and Mapping Committee for March 19th. I call this meeting to order. We are a little late starting, but nonetheless, we'll get it going. I didn't see any public here or online, so we can begin with our wildlife survey progress and our discussion about additional GIS work we might want to do.
Sandy, let me ask you a question. So we're not video recording, we're not doing GoToMeeting, or we are?
We are.
It's just that wasn't on.
Through that. We don't have to have that unless somebody's online.
Okay.
No, I was gonna, all right.
Great, okay, good.
Well, should we leave it? I mean, should I leave it on just?
Sure. Then we'll notice if someone comes.
Somebody wiped the screen with a dirty something and I meant to deal with it before. I don't switch to, how do you say it? Yes. Oops, what did I just do? Just turn it off.
But as far as you know, we're recording.
Oh, yes, we are, because it's recording
on that computer.
Right. I got an email from Jeff this morning saying he was able to go out again last week to do the road survey again, and almost completed it, but didn't quite. I don't think he's done any parcel visits. The snow has just been so uncooperative, and what we got today the rain may take a lot of it. But I think maybe Friday he'll be able to come and do some more work, but remains to be seen. But I will talk a little bit about the conversation I had with him when we were doing the road survey, and then some of the correspondence with Aaron Worthley.
That's great, thank you.
So when I talked to Jeff about it, because the snow has been uncooperative, he was trying to frame a way that we could redistribute the hours within Arrowwood to complete the same mission, just different emphasis on the actual surveys versus the GIS wildlife information that Aaron could do.
Okay.
Hello. And so then when we you are so forward tonight.
Yeah.
Penny and I were able to join Aaron's presentation to Jericho, and he had so many interesting and valuable analyses that he's doing for them, sort of ranking all the forest blocks. And I had written down the 14 different components.
Oh, you did?
And I can't find that slip of paper.
Oh, I didn't bring my computer. I think I took a picture.
Oh, that would have
a
been
screenshot of them.
Yeah.
But we do have the video, right? The link to it, the recording, right?
Okay.
So I'm pretty
Think
sure.
of that.
Pretty sure we do. So I was thinking we've even rewatching it. So Sandy, remind me. There are two questions I have for you. One, remind me, was the information Aaron used, the information that he crunched, was that from site visits or not?
No.
Okay.
No.
So that's not from site visits. And is your understanding, I think I misunderstood you to say this, that despite the fact that we may not get any site visits, you feel, or Jeff feels, that we can have some valuable data despite the fact that we can't get site visits.
Right. So the kind of thing I'll just take out the forest block map so we
Yeah.
can just kind of consider this.
Did you see what the cat was doing, trying to intimidate me?
I know, me too. I think
I know, but I'm
it really just wanted attention.
I know, and I
If we
don't,
didn't know he was being bad right now, we would be all over.
no, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't touch it.
Oh,
Oh, I think.
Yeah, okay.
So Jericho's a total different beast, and they have a lot of little parcels, right? The kind of thing that he would analyze is the size, all of the, I can't remember what each of these things is called, but sort of the area of penetration. Yes, penetration, areas of penetration
Of penetration of what though?
of the
Humans or?
contiguous forest.
Okay, forest.
So it'd be, how much edge, how much total block, how much interior that's a certain distance away from roads. There were basically 14 criteria that they were using. And what it amounted to in the end was a way that you could then say, okay, these blocks are really, rank high for these 4 characteristics. Yet these blocks rank high for a few different ones, and that sort of thing, so that you're able to describe the value of each of them a little more. So I liked that. And then in addition to that, he was doing a lot of work about potential corridors, like, looking for areas where wildlife can cross from one block to another, mostly east to west kind of thing.
I thought I could access it. Maybe, Karen, it was really quite an exciting
It really is
meeting.
amazing. Yeah.
I didn't realize what you could do with data.
Which
And
was
it's ranking.
spatially.
This
Yeah.
meeting, yeah, that was all new.
When
to me,
was
this
that?
whole ranking thing? About a month ago,
Maybe, yeah.
But I can find that link and I'll send it to you.
It's the Jericho Conservation Commission meeting, basically, and we had to
Right.
wait like, I don't know, half hour for
Right.
a quorum.
There was yes, right, technical issues, right.
Because right now what we have for forest blocks and whatnot, we have natural community. I thought when we got the natural community mapping back, there would be more diversity so that we could say, oh, these areas are really valuable and that kind of thing. And the upland communities really aren't very diverse. Maybe the wetlands are, but
Karen, what they ended up doing, as I recollect, I can't show you right now, is that they had this ranking that they made circles. So there were circles, and then where circles would intersect, that would be a really significant area. So it was a great visual that you could see that this area is important, ranks really high, and this area happens to be where animals cross and this and this, and then this area ranks really high. So they were able to do this sort of circles of importance. And then I believe what we could do once we get that information is say to Jens and say to them, okay, so what do you recommend we do with this important area? Is this something, I'm hoping that they'll be able to say, well, that's a wildlife crossing area. If I were you, I put trees across here and I do this and that and whatever, and then I protect this and then I dredge the wetlands or something. Oh, just somebody needs to, somebody, well, I'm just pretending right now.
So what kind of the neighbor, it's northern spruce? Is that
What's
the navy
that?
blue block?
Navy blue?
It's northern spruce, is that what it's saying?
Montane?
Montane, well, just read it to me.
Spruce fir forest. I don't know how do you say the word. Is it montane?
Montane.
Spruce fir forest.
Okay, so mountain spruce forest, montane is mountain, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what these are.
Hmm.
Right there.
I don't know if that's really a dry red oak white pine forest, or is that an overlaid?
It's the same color as that.
Hmm.
Is it yellow or overlaid blue? Or is it?
That is one of those situations.
Oh,
sometimes
it
when things
might
are
be
overlaid.
this.
Northern hardwood.
You know, what it might be is an open area where, like you say, the underlying land cover is just showing through.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when they did the natural community map, then they gave us the listing of all of them that were found, the acres and how many different ones there were. So that is certainly one way to look at all of the information. Many of the ones that are, well, so what I did with this was they have a 5-class system, the heritage program, about what's common, what's not as common, what's rare, those kind of things. So a 5 is very common, and northern hardwood forest is a 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We do have some areas like alpine meadows are a rare natural community, well, because you only find it up there, right?
Yeah.
And there's some acidic cliffs, which are also up, so a
This is the
lot of
orange
this
one.
is on Mount Mansfield. Yeah.
Acidic cliffs.
It's boreal,
Of this blue right here,
Oh,
this royal blue.
yeah, and then the boreal calcareous cliffs are, there probably aren't that many, maybe this yellow here. Anyways, the information on private lands is, pretty similar. Most of it's northern hardwood forests. We have some areas that are hemlock, northern hardwood.
Who is that?
Oh, hello.
Hello?
Direct me there?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Is there one here tonight?
It's upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's really
Is that,
He looks familiar.
yeah, was that Bob's?
No.
No.
Well, in any case, these are the layers we have, and then we also have the wetlands.
Yes. Right. And this is all
I
from
haven't really looked.
viewing, from putting maps together or from some aerial viewing map wise. This is
No.
not site.
No, this is from, so before you came, last year, Michael, yes, yes, they started with the aerial maps, soil maps, all of those come together and they can sort of predict where different natural communities are. But what I learned when I went out with Jeff is that Michael had also done road surveys where he could confirm things.
I
So he
see.
wasn't actually doing a lot of work interior, but he was able to verify things
Okay.
doing that sort of thing.
Right.
So we have those as part of the phase 1, and then what's going to get added is really the wildlife habitat and connectivity information.
So, it just doesn't seem quite accurate for the wetlands.
Oh, it doesn't?
Well, I'm just looking, kind of in my neck of the woods, and I would have thought it would be bigger, that it would show larger here, especially right in, I mean, this is pond and wet up in here.
The scale,
Yeah.
oh,
I
you
just switched to this one to look at that. So in addition to the yellow, which is all here, there's all of these which were classified as,
Hemlock forest?
That lowland, their colors are close, you
Yeah.
can always tell.
and then the lighter green.
Hemlock northern hardwood, so that would lead, we believe it's
The
hemlock.
top one is also, is northern hardwood. Is this
So-
green or?
The light green,
This is the northern hardwood.
then this is hemlock northern hardwood,
Hardwood,
and
okay.
likely this is hemlock.
Okay, so hemlock, that would make sense, because
Yeah,
there's a
right.
lot of
So
hemlock
if
communities
it's
there.
forested, even if it's wet,
Yeah.
it, it may be classified that way. Just guess.
So Sandy, with this map, this is basically what they were talking about in Jericho.
Yes.
And this
Because
is where
they
they
had
ranked,
those already.
because they had this, and this is where they ranked, and they had overlapping circles to identify this place is important, this is important. Are they going to do the same with, say, wetlands? Is this going to be ranked so we then find out which wetlands are more important or which waterways are important? So does that same sort of ranking happen with this and happen with this? Can you rank these
Well-
things or not?
On the forest blocks, one of the things that I'm pretty sure he was talking about were all the riparian corridors.
Okay.
And so, yeah,
That's one of
basically the
I see.
wetlands gets overlaid because that's what a lot of the wildlife uses.
Okay, so really, these other maps are identifying discrete areas of natural communities. This is more an overview of where that takes into account the natural communities within the forest
Yeah,
block.
yeah.
So, okay, so I see. Now, we don't have this in the contract for him to do what they did for Jericho here.
Well, we have, okay, I should have had the contract out.
So for instance, you wouldn't say this wetland is important, this wetland is important. It's part of the whole picture
Yeah.
that, given the 14
Yeah.
criteria, this area, which happens to contain a wetland, is the most important. Okay, right, I got it.
And, it might be important to the region, but, Underhill maybe has a lot, maybe there's 10 sites.
Mhm.
But this is and Mount Mansfield is probably one of the main reasons it would be very unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And is Jeff discouraged that he hasn't been able to do any tracking?
No. Yeah, okay, so I didn't finish my conversation, but he was saying, this was 2 weeks ago, let's give it a little more time into March before we decide to have Aaron beef up what he's doing. So, where Jeff might have been able to visit an area where certain wildlife movement might be and say, here's what I'm seeing here. Instead, we can look to, the spatial research end of it and say, this is what we anticipate will be happening.
if we had all the money in the world, we'd want Jeff to do his job, but we'd also want Aaron to do that ranking or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, they have their committee meeting starting at 7.
Oh, is it? So if we leave before they do, would we assume they lock the door and all of that, or we'll have to?
I would go upstairs and say, do you have a key?
Why do you have it? Sandy doesn't.
Well, I've had it forever.
No, I mean, if they have one, Sandy doesn't have one.
Oh.
We're just joking how many committees you have to be on to rate a key. You know, if you're
I
on.
think it's commissions get keys.
Oh.
And the planning commission,
Yeah.
somebody has one.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
committees don't rank quite as high.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So here are some of the things that they can include in the wildlife habitat stuff. This was from Johnson and the kind of information that they put in. And some of that is included on our GIS stuff, and then other isn't. Right, so here's the other thing I was just talking about, the state ranking of natural
Oh, right,
communities.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right, that was included. Yeah. State ranking here.
This wouldn't be odd if Underhill doesn't have any, I guess we'd want to say low ranks, because
No.
5 is ordinary or common or something, yeah. We're looking for some 1s and 2s to be to this habitat. You know, the animals are starting to move around, but one of the reasons I'm wondering that they aren't as prolific as they usually are with their tracks is this. I've noticed that, for example, the deer and then whoever follows the deer around can't get across places because it hasn't been frozen solid.
Mm.
Oh,
Things like that. So
that's an interesting
so
thought.
they're doing go around, but not
I see.
necessarily moving the way they usually do.
Interesting, Karen.
Yeah.
So our warmer winter has affected their circulation.
I think so. I mean, that's what I'm trying to sort of think, because they're not, for example, they used to be over on the other side of Mill Brook, which is the range. They had a trail there. They'd come across and then come across to where my pond is and come up the bank, but they haven't been doing that because,
They can't come across the middle brook.
well, it's wet when they don't, I don't know why they can't.
Interesting.
I haven't actually gone down to see. I mean, usually they'd be able to jump it if they couldn't,
Yeah.
but they're changing their patterns a little bit. I mean, that's not a big deal. That's just an example, but you don't see the huge deer tracks, like many of them, like I used to, between the two beaver ponds. And between them, usually there were, they'd be around, they'd come around, and I haven't seen many at all.
Well, that's an interesting thought, because at town meeting, when there are lots of people just standing around talking, virtually everyone said, we don't have the same number of wildlife sightings that we used to have. Not at all. We used to have, and I mean, just for myself, living more urban Underhill, we had moose, for quite a while, and we had some other unusual animals, and I haven't seen them in years now. So everyone was just surmising that either the population is being reduced somehow, or they're moving northward or moving somewhere else.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, that's probably, I mean, that could be. I always see fishers in the snow out hunting in the winter. And at first I didn't know what they were, because I wasn't sure.
Right.
And then it dawned on me that they were out and about, but I have not even seen any, not many Fisher tracks coming around. And
Remember, you and Annie O'Shaughnessy are vying for the most sightings, and under all you have a pretty good list.
yeah, I mean, I have actually video of Mama Bear with triplets from
That, I know, I think you were the one that's, and that's
Yeah.
like everybody else has two cubs, you know. but we
triplets,
have
and then there was another one following the mama and the three babies.
Would that be an adolescent?
I was
Another
thinking it
one?
was my baby bear male,
Oh,
but I don't know, maybe it was some other family.
So one of the other things that I'd like your help with is trying to improve the online version of this.
oh, yes,
Okay.
right.
So what I had suggested is this is really hard for people to follow.
Absolutely.
You know, you have this little thing here, but you don't realize that it's an eye that you click on or off and things change. So I was suggesting that you saw the thing I
Yes,
had sent, right?
putting it in white, you took a clip.
Yeah.
Right. So who manages that
This is
website?
Aaron.
Oh, that's Aaron. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he
Oh,
created this.
yeah. I wondered
Yeah.
how he would know how to get that done. So it's their own website, their own site.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So this is posted on their site. And I don't know if just the color change is the thing, or, I like where you actually click on them rather than just having, see, there's dots here that mean
Yes.
something, and there's these over here that mean something.
I see.
And it's different than most sites I've been
I
on.
see. Okay. I will definitely look at that.
So that's what I was
Readability is
suggesting, that he change. And if it's okay with you, I'll continue to ask him
Yes.
to do that.
I'm trying to bring up
Okay.
your
So-
email, or I can see it there, maybe.
So this is what she was suggesting. That's what Sandy sent out as a clip of, like a visual. Would that would look better as this, in this format?
Yeah. Because there is a legend. This is the legend. Those are the layers.
That's
This
hard to
is
see
the
it in
legend.
the black.
And even this is hard to see,
Mhm.
And this is the layer one. If you
Yeah.
look at like the natural community
impossible.
one, and then you
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
do that, you have just like, it kind of goes on and on.
I wonder if they have the option for changing that or not.
Oh,
or if that's in software.
absolutely.
They do?
Yeah. I mean, you saw what he did in Jericho, right? I mean, they did this.
Oh.
It was very clear. It was
Oh,
very
okay.
nice.
All
Yeah.
right.
So
So the other thing I was
this
gonna,
is it, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
so when you click on, let me just see what I'm doing here. So over here, you can press this I.
Karen, do you want to come over here?
I guess
So
I will.
between us?
Yeah. Well,
No, that's not
definitely
very
can't see.
good. Sorry.
I'm getting also the glare from that.
Mhm.
So,
If you click on one of these things, then it tells you that exact block, it gives you some information. So I clicked on this and this came up, and it tells you it's a mixed, the land use is mixed forest, the natural community is this.
Nice.
But it also may have some of that in it, because our forests are not always perfect. It tells you how many acres, and then there's some comments here. And that's why it says there's a little, so that's the kind of information we have for the upland one. So, you could go through here and do that for all of them. Then the other thing I wanted to go to was the forest blocks. Let me get rid of those and go back to just forest blocks.
That's hard to see.
I know, yeah. So if you press on one of the forest blocks, so we have 23 here. So it pulls up 23. It tells you the acreage, 99% tree and 1% shrub. Very enlightening. And what else can we look at? I know there's more. I think it's with the wetlands. Let me just go back to the wetlands. So if we look at one of the wetland areas, like, oh, it's done. Let's see, this is the.
So, Sandy, under the what you clicked on the natural communities, it ended up having a drop-down list. So you may have had two. How do you get back to the screen where the layers? If you go to that, so if you click that arrow, this one right there, yeah, does it drop down to more natural communities? So can you see one? You just do the wetlands. Okay. Did you turn off the others or is that
So what are the natural communities there?
So right now, this is the.
The color was what though?
So if you go up here, you get the legend.
Yeah, and you know what? You
This is
don't,
very confusing.
well, it's not that, but you don't realize you need the legend until you're after. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so what?
Oh, there's
you
no
just,
legend.
you know what? You just hovered over it and it turned itself off. So you just need to turn it back on again. And now there might be a legend because nothing was on. Yeah.
So it's these here.
Right.
Oh, there's swamps.
So if we looked at this one here, so some of these, the wetlands have a little more information, like how confident are they that it's that type of wetland? And it also has some ranking, but not all of them have ranking. So I think each of these has to do with how useful it is to for floodwater control or wildlife or fisheries.
I see. So those are the qualities that they rank it on.
Right. And it's all kind of in code, which doesn't help a lot of people, right? And then they have this final value sum, I think, which is an 11. So I think if I talk with Erin a little more about the meaning behind each of these, we may find that the wetlands have been categorized to a certain extent.
Right.
So that's one thing.
So Sandy, could I ask you, can the average citizen go to this website?
Yes.
Okay. Another question then is, two more questions. One is, I went to a website somehow in the last couple of weeks, and maybe it was the Jericho one when we were having that video, I don't know. And there were flyouts that if it said the natural community was the montane forest, and you clicked on it, a flyout would then describe what montane forest is.
Yeah.
Does that happen with this website?
It doesn't right now, no.
Okay. And then the other question I had is, I would imagine that if I were a resident and went to this website and was looking at this, the first thing that I'd be doing is relating it to myself. And I'd say,
Yeah.
wait a minute, that wetland is smaller than what I have on my property, you know?
For
And-
example.
For example,
yeah.
and I think it's bigger than that. So do we want that input? And if we have that, or do we, or do they want that input? Is it even just good for communications and a good feeling? Or do we not? Would it be helpful or not? And is there a way to give someone that input?
Right. I mean, initially, we were gonna have that kind of exchange, but I don't know how you do it. You know, how do you, they aren't here in the room to talk about it.
I know.
And I also, I looked at what I saw near my house that I would say, boy, you know, I think that's a forested wetland or something. But then I'm like, well, you know, what are the boundaries of it?
Yeah.
Is it very big? I don't know. You know, you can't get down too small.
Right, I'm just wondering if citizens and I have no idea, would it affect their confidence level negatively if they see too many things that don't jive with what they experience themselves, and the answer, this is presented as they used maps and overlaid maps and whatever, and it might be, somebody might, would or not, would a percentage of people say, that doesn't even make sense to me, that's sort of a waste of time, look, we know things are different than that. I don't know, maybe that won't be an issue at all, I just wondered if it could be.
Well, you know what would be helpful though, because, I mean, Alder Swamp, for example, there is a swath of that sort of close to my property. It doesn't seem like it's showing up there, but maybe it's because it's less than an acre.
Right, so
And so-
maybe that would be a response to that.
The
It doesn't show up.
education behind this is important, isn't it? Like the deer yards, you know, how big are they before they're, you know, the state does it one way, and, you know, is it different?
Right,
All those
so I just wouldn't want to chip away at the confidence level of what we're getting, but it may not, but if it does, maybe some explanation of why,
Mhm.
or a way to heal it, that maybe some input. Options for, but I don't know, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I think when we get down to the point of presenting these in person, that's a nice time to have that dialogue.
Mhm.
And having this that is, just doesn't give you the lay kind of information you might want, is not quite as useful to the residents, I don't think. Now, one thing that I was sent also are all the GIS layers, so that if we had someone in town that wanted to build, wanted to do like a story map or something like that, it would make it so much more useful. I know Ryan created that one for the big tree contest, it's a pretty simple one compared to this, but, I don't know, or maybe we can work with some class that, have them do something for us.
The
That's
junior
interesting.
conservation.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have one?
We're
We
forming
will.
one, we will. We have two leaders. One's a teacher,
Oh, good.
and one's a mother that's got kids that are kind of, well, they're not in high school, but secondary.
Getting there.
Yeah.
It's the intent.
The
The
intent.
intent is there. So Sandy, I think we all know that we have to get something like this, which is interesting on a personal level. Oh, what's around my house? Interesting to me. And I'm a great example because I don't know that much about anything. So I'm just a townsperson coming, looking at this. I think, oh, that's interesting. Like But how much can you fool around with that? I can turn layers off and on, and that's interesting, but what does that end up meaning for us in town? So now, but this is, so we're documenting this.
Right.
And then what does that tell us, or what could it tell us, or what could we, so we kind of have to also make the segue to that, you know?
Right, I think right now what we're doing is, okay, we want buy-in from the residents so that they
Yes.
sort of believe what we're gonna do with the maps is a good thing. And so we want our materials to be very educational that way, right?
So we're educating first, we're educating what
Really,
we
that
have.
has to be a big push. And even educating our two commissions, you know, everybody on planning, everybody on conservation commissions, because there's a lot here, right?
There's
And
a lot.
there's some that's very unfamiliar. And to try to be able to say what's useful, you really got to understand what it is, right? Yeah.
And I think it's also really it would be helpful for me, and I have the book, I have Liz's book, you know, but it would be helpful for me to have, and I'm sure you folks have more of it, an understanding of the flow of all this. So we have 20 different kinds of forests and 20 different kinds of natural communities, but Karen can know that the deer like to move from this to that in the summer and the winter, and then use this and then cross that and drink there. Like, that is much more useful to me to sort of be able to connect to the understanding of the environment than to know this is all the swamp, this is what do I care, this is all the swamp, you know?
Yeah, I kept hearing Jeff say, oh, those are really bare wetlands, and I guess I would never.
They're like BEAR or
Yeah.
BEAR?
BEAR, like they come out and they're hungry in the spring, and
Fishing there.
there's there are wetlands where.
Huh.
Yeah.
There are berries and things that they like.
Yeah. So I think the
Yeah.
beauty of doing something like a story map
Yeah.
would be you could read those kind of.
Yeah. Like cause and effect and connections between them and why are they, what's the significance?
Right, the one that as a forester I keep looking at is, okay, where are those rich northern hardwoods? They're ones that are calcium rich, usually very moist, that kind of thing. They are supposed to be looking forward with climate change, where we would expect diverse species to be able to survive, okay? You need that kind of information.
Yeah.
Not everyone will know that. Same with like the oak forest. We have a few of those scattered around. That's going to be the seed for future forests as we warm, so all of those kind of stories, I think, just add to the richness of what we're trying to do.
Right.
I wonder if when it's presented to the public, if we can have somebody like a forester and a water person and this kind of person that can talk and tell the stories and add to one another's story about that. Have several people.
Yeah, well, that was one of the reasons I really wanted to be able to come up with some additional funds for Arrowwood people to participate in person at public meetings so they can share that kind of information. They're the ones that really know, because a report's a reporter, a map's a map.
Right.
Yeah. And the story is what catches people's attention. And where did Jeff find the bear swamp wetlands?
He didn't say.
He didn't find it.
No, he just was mentioning it, and it was, yeah. Okay, so I still haven't gotten people I know in town that have different expertise together, but I think that would be a really good thing to capture during those meetings. Okay, here's what we have. What do you find interesting about that, or your experience? Tell me some stories. And if we notate those and weave them into whatever we can do for an online story map. I think that would be.
And I think it could be valuable to have with the engineers here who can tell the good story and have the information. It would be good to have some knowledgeable local residents also as presenters, so it brings it down home more. You know, they don't live here, and Karen can talk about when she hikes in her backyard and the deer, she hasn't seen the deer cross the whatever, and you know, that you can relate it. And other townspeople see you talking about your property or your trails, in addition to the engineers. I think it could be helpful to have townspeople and engineers together too. Somehow.
Yeah, and you mean engineers like, what kind of engineers?
Arrowwood, I mean,
Okay.
talking about their
Yeah.
maps,
No,
you know,
it's-
presenting their maps.
You know what, my cousin.
Usually they are considered engineers.
Well, out of towners, maybe, you know, and also have in town, unless they're someone
Well,
who live
they're-
in Underhill.
They're subject matter experts.
Yeah.
Well, they are on the subject matter, but then having residents who are actual Underhill land
What I've seen.
residents.
Well,
you know.
that's why
Wide
this
subject matter.
Yes,
wildlife
Right.
thing is just so exciting.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is really exciting. I thought it was gonna be, it's gonna be so confusing. And what do we ever do with the data, but it's very easy. The way it's all organized and, you put the little numbers.
The dots and numbers. So could I, just before I forget, just ask you a couple questions about that? I think it might be valuable to have some sort of online form, we talked about this, to have a form and to have a map. And I was talking with Steve Webster about this, and we just can't figure out any way for the average person to pin on a map and make it so they can enter what they see on the pin. It's just not that easy, the technology. But we could have a map and people could try to describe it. Most people, except for Annie and maybe Karen, who told me what was in their backyard, and a couple other people what they've seen on hiking trails, which was valuable. But a lot of people were just talking about where they lived, what they see. So, you know, they could say, my address is 191 Poker Hill Road, and at least we did
You're
that.
there.
But also, I wondered if it might be useful to, once we've developed that, perhaps, to ask on Front Porch Forum about trail cameras. Because a number of people came up to me and said, well, I saw it on my trail cam. I didn't see it in person. I thought, whoa, there are probably lots of people with trail cameras that I don't know. I don't have one, you know?
Well, I think trail cameras, if it's on their property, it's almost like seeing it in person.
You're right,
I mean, or wherever the camera is.
right.
I mean,
So if I wonder if people would be, who have trail cameras might be excited about that. If they saw, we need trail camera data. Now, can you tell me what your camera has seen?
So the ad on Front Porch Forum will be calling for wildlife sightings. There's a form, or you can go to the library and do it in person. I'm kind of thinking maybe we don't have too many other sites, to be quite honest.
Yeah, you know, as that worked out really well, but as I mentioned, it worked out really well, I think, when I was taking it.
Yeah.
Because when I would say, would you put the dot on there, just everybody went like this, and the map started to go like that, and I was like pressing at the back and trying. So that was really kind of a tough thing. It's just too delicate to do that, you know. But if I'm there taking, and I thought I can just keep being aware of when we're having meetings. I could go to planning commission meeting and ask where the sightings are, and I could do that thing.
that would get them to start thinking, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe.
So, and I think that we could do a couple, like we could maybe advertise that maybe I could even be at the library for like Saturday morning or something. So if you stop by the library or something like that, I could sit there for a while. But maybe another Front Porch Forum is wildlife sightings with your webcam. And we could hit it from different angles and just pepper the Front Porch Forum with different options for giving us that information. But let me tell you.
All right.
I'll tell you later.
Okay. So I can write something up for Front Porch. I can make this form And I'll send it around for you guys to review. And then once that's done, I'll do a posting on Front Porch Forum. Here's the form.
And you're good with
And-
Google Forms?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's getting a map. So my idea was to get a flyout. I don't know if Google Forms does this, to get some sort of a map to accompany Google Forms, or maybe it's a
I
link
think
on the Google
that's-
form that allows you, that flies out onto another tab, and it has scales on it. And I think I was thinking the scale would be quarter mile, half mile, 1 mile sort of scale, and north arrow, so that people could say, and maybe the scale's at a couple different places, oh, it was about a half mile up Poker Hill Road on the left, something like that, or to the west. So I could work on.
I don't know
that.
if I can do that on Google Form.
I'll fiddle around with it and see. I've done Google Forms a little bit myself.
Yeah.
I'll see if I could link on a Google form.
I think just having the rough ideas.
They just at home, like where they say.
Yeah.
But how do you say if it's not your home? Like, how would you describe it if it was the wetland near that you were talking about, like near your house? Would you just give your home address and?
Yeah, probably. I probably would if it's close.
Right, it could be a descriptor,
Or,
you think?
or a part of it might be on 190 Beartown Road, which doesn't really have a house. It has a, and there.
The
Or
nearest road address?
Or maybe we could give a couple examples, and maybe one of the examples would be like a trail example. Could we say that, like the trail, from Krug Road to Beartown, halfway up or something or other, a description of a trail where people might have seen things? Or and then another example of a home address, like my backyard at 191 Poker Hill Road or something like that. What do you think? Like, give a couple examples, 2 or 3
Sure.
examples, maybe.
Are you gonna do jump on my head?
Yes, what that cat likes to do is if it sort of it looks at your mouth, it wants to butt in your mouth or kiss you or something.
He's so cute.
Yeah, you who are allergic.
You stay away from her. I like its eyes, though. Its eyes are beautiful. It's like
And it doesn't want to get on your,
ears.
it doesn't want to get on your lap. I
My
was
cat's like that,
begging
too.
him. Oh,
It
come on
doesn't.
my lap. No, it took him forever to put his paws down on my lap. That's nice.
Is this a man?
No,
Yeah.
yes. I think so.
But he's reading. You know how he's reading?
I don't know, cats are interesting, even when they're purring, they can attack you.
Especially then even.
I really want to pet it, but I'll start it. Yes, I will.
Okay, so
All right.
we
Right,
have
back to-
some ideas. If maybe what you can do is if you want to bring the map to the library a certain day, you could just say, I'll be at the
At the
library
library.
on this date.
And I could check with Holly about that, and
I asked her, she said, yeah, if it's on a easel, it can be a lot
Right.
of different places, yeah.
right.
Um,
I'll just also try and think of, what I guess I should ask, so I'm entering this into a spreadsheet, and
Oh,
what I am wondering, I guess, no, I'll talk about it later, but what is our deadline for this? When do we need to get our information to them? So is this a month from now, 2 months from now? Is this a week from now?
a month anyways, like, maybe.
You are glad. I'm so jealous.
here's
You're obviously a cat person.
Yeah. I would say by the end of April.
Okay, so why don't we work on, if you can work on that form, why don't we try and send that around within the next, the third week of March, within the next week and a half, 10 days or so? Try and do something and send it around. And then we'll have a back and forth on that. Then we'll be able to post it in Front Porch Forum so that people have the form there to fill out. And people did ask about that at the Sioux Falls somewhere in at the town meeting.
They wanted.
Is there a form that I can, do something online?
Mm,
But it might be also nice, I was gonna say to just have a little graphic of what we're doing, but then they'll get confused. They'll think they need to put a number down from our map, like put a little map graphic. So
Okay, we're gonna keep it simple.
we'll keep this.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, I know.
we got that one.
Okay.
We got that. We're gonna get the legend straight. This
Legend
whole
straight.
map thing, we're gonna get that straight.
Now,
Now, let's talk
talk about
about
money
money
money and,
or time. So I would like to make it so we don't have to redo our contract with them, that it's just sort of an internal adjusting of their funds. So that'll be my starting point.
yeah,
I know he's already going to be doing, connectivity. Aaron is, but that was part of the whole deal anyways. So he's gonna add that, but all of these forced block rankings is not something he was planning on doing.
and now we know at least what Jericho is having, so we can say, like Jericho, how much would that cost?
Well, I did that. and
You did,
That's what. he-
The 4,000 to 6,000 or
Yeah,
something.
To do the forest block rankings?
Yeah.
the analysis for it is, he said it's pretty complex. So maybe, I can get into the nitty gritty and say, okay, there's 14 criteria. I mean, because he also talked about sort of an innovative thing he was doing where, remember the last thing where he connected the block, he did
Yes,
like
that's right.
circles of,
That's right.
habitat movement, that kind of thing. Maybe we can't afford that, but can can you do? And depending on if Jeff can get out this week and do something, fine, but I think we really need to, it's gonna take Aaron time to do the other things, so we can't wait forever, right?
Right, and will our wildlife sightings assist enough
Absolutely.
that maybe Jeff wouldn't have to go out? No?
Because it's not,
It's just,
It's not gonna-
we're picking and choosing, I see, whereas he's looking for things. It's a different kind of, he's the expert, he sees things that other people don't see.
he'll notice hair on twigs and it's, that's a
Mm.
bobcat. Oh, look at the scent markings, that must be,
Mm.
different.
Okay. All right, so you are going to approach them about how much money there is after Jeff potentially, or theoretically, if Jeff were to get out, how much money is there left that could go toward the 4,000 to 6,000 that's needed?
It's interesting, 4,000 to 6,000. We didn't have
What was it in the first place, Stephen?
13,000,
It was at 17, I think the price had gone up just.
17,000. You'd think that the select board would take that out of their kitty. I mean, they have like a little kitty. And, I mean, they could take $1,000 out of the conservation commission kitty. Because we rarely, 2 years ago, we used to,
Okay,
we don't always use it.
all right, well, I'll keep that in mind, if it looks like they're close, but not quite. It was just really hard for them to fund us in the beginning, it's, I don't know as funding has gotten any better recently.
And we'll have 5 of them to decide that, or decide not to do that. Starting in June.
Yeah, there's a lot of re-education.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure it's such a great idea to have, there are two more.
Okay. How did we do on the agenda here? We have progress. You're doing a great job with that wildlife stuff, you know?
What about, oh, I just told Karen that I think for the Conservation Commission, there may not be that many months left, but it might be nice to have on the Conservation Commission agenda every month, a little update or summary of what's happening here.
Okay.
And at some point, we need to really get people enthusiastic about it on the Conservation Commission and sort of start segueing and taking, understanding what's happening here. And
Well, there has been some of that, okay? In the beginning, it was very difficult to get anybody to be part of the natural resources RIMIC, to be part of RIMIC. You know, and we had, one individual was there for a while, but then, another one, and, you know, they didn't, I think it was more than they could take on, but, you know, I give them little brief updates about, you know, Arrowwood, we hired Arrowwood and things. At this point, we haven't talked about the mapping, because I'm not really sure. Well, Sandy came and talked.
I did do an
Yeah,
overview of the online thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Not too many questions though, at all. Remember that,
buy-in.
well, the commission is also
We have
made up
4
of,
people.
yeah, but also, even before, they had individual interests that, like, one person is butterflies, somebody else is.
Jumping worms.
One person's jumping worms, somebody else is invasive species, and,
Right.
and then, so,
I know.
so that's kind of, so for them to make a leap, I mean, I like wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
but that's not necessarily that much.
You know, one thing that we could do is to tailor presentations to their interests a little bit. Like if you have, okay, monarchs, kind of habitat, where do you find it? You know, what other things are in that habitat that might be competing or not? Monarchs kind of a narrow habitat, but other, you know, the bees, I was just talking with the bee person that's going to be on the lookout for loosestrife this year because there's a bee they think they should have in Vermont that they haven't found yet that only focuses on loosestrife
Is that
flowers,
right?
you know?
Huh.
So there's all those kind of things that can connect people a little better to things. And loosestrife grows in sort of wettish areas. So, you know, where might you find? Actually, there's a map, I could show a map of locations in iNaturalist in Underhill where they found loosestrife. And, you know, just a lot of things like that. It just takes a little time to dig in, but yeah.
You know, that is another thing, sort of a little bit of a sidebar thing that relates to this is I think we should really have some trainings in iNaturalist for people. Because the more we could, when Sandy was saying at the Super Bowl Sunday, she was saying, and you can always put your sightings into iNaturalist. I was thinking about how many people, I don't even know how to use that well. I can do it a little bit, but I'm not really that comfortable with it. So, and, you know, Bernie's the big iNaturalist person.
Oh, yeah.
So if we could, you know.
Remember
get some of
Ted
this.
said he would be glad to do a training. Maybe it's an online training.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Conservation Commission or, you know, it could be during your meeting. He's online and
Right.
everybody brings their digital apparatus.
and then maybe Conservation Commission could take it over like once a month. There's tech help on it, you know, if people want it, who might have missed it.
now that would probably, Lori's,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
maybe me, because there's some other things that,
Yeah.
and then we can also bring it to groups, like Mountain Mama.
Right.
There's a-
Yeah.
You know, they would
Right, I should bring my map. I don't know.
bring the map, like the iNaturalist training, because so many of them
Yeah.
are out there in the woods. So not only just open general sessions, but other groups.
So I'd forgotten that I was wondering about that plus the webcams. Could we talk to people about iNaturalist so they could start inputting their sightings for whatever date we want to give? And will Arrowwood be incorporating or looking at any of that data on the maps, the sightings on the iNaturalist maps?
Yeah, I sent that data to.
Okay.
And there's a link that was created so that, you know, if in 2 months he wanted to update it, could
Oh, okay.
add stuff to it.
So maybe we could think about getting those going, getting some trainings going too. And currently, it would be useful anyway. It's just useful anyway, whether it gets incorporated into this or not.
It would be,
Between that and Maryland, oh my gosh, it
Yeah.
just opens up new worlds.
I know, it does, right. And in Maryland too, we should think about showing people that.
I don't know anything like that.
About Merlin? About Merlin?
It'll change
Oh, Karen.
your life.
Oh, Karen, dear, you're probably too advanced for Merlin, but
Right,
let
what
me
do you
tell you,
mean?
it's really easy. It's an app by Cornell that you can click start recording and hold it out, and it will say that's a bluebird, that's a cardinal right now,
Oh,
and it
okay,
and it
sound,
records it.
sound.
And it records it as a visual, as a sound wave too. So I've actually thought about that, like I'm more of a visual person, that if it does this and goes up and then down, then it's one kind of bird, and I can kind of remember that. It's just a whole nother way to how it's helped me to learn birds. I'm learning. It's a great learning aid. Yeah, that would be great.
And that would be good. Actually, that would be good because we're gonna have, some raptor comfort. Remember we're having,
Are we going to make him? Are we doing something else?
and then in the fall, we're having raptors 2 days.
All right, that's right. Yes, that's right. She's doing raptors in the fall and spring birds in the spring.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the local experts, that's still something that
Yeah.
Sandy wants to.
So you're
identify.
good. You would call Kentucky, right, and ask them to do that?
To do the iNaturalist?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I just, you know, I could help with that, but you
I
are
could-
in touch with him, right?
Yeah, I can do that.
That, he must know what he's talking about because he offered. But I remember one time watching Sabina do iNaturalist years ago when I didn't even have a cell phone or I had a flip phone at the time, so I couldn't follow along with her, but she had to connect her phone somehow to her screen so you could watch her phone because she's doing it on her phone. And so that was a little tricky. It was something she had a hard time doing that, but but that was a little,
Well,
people who know
he's done
technology.
the training.
So he's done,
I
okay.
can't imagine.
Okay.
How soon do we gonna do that?
Well, you want it pretty soon, well, before
Well-
spring, because that's when you want to get out there and start
Right,
looking.
like any time, I think, and that could be another Front Porch Forum notice that we say, hey, and here's some iNaturalist training, and then another one, your webcam sightings, your this and that, and we could really up it up there.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my paper,
So we,
so I can write down these notes.
so we have like 3 more weeks of mud season, so we got to do everything in the world in the next 3 weeks.
All right,
Okay, contact. Okay.
so it's Kent.
Kent. Huh?
Oh, it's Ken McFarland?
Ken
Is that
McFarland.
Ken?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
I know him.
I'm going to-
He lives in Woodstock, I believe.
Could be,
So we offered that 2 years ago.
I know, but I did
We have long
contact him
memories.
recently for the iNaturalist data, so He knows we're still here.
Okay, and I'll try and also identify some times that I could take the maps to people elsewhere too.
Okay.
Karen, you know what maybe we could do for Mountain Mamas? If I don't usually go that often, but maybe I could try to coordinate with the time that somebody's offering some snacks afterwards. And maybe I could bring it to the place where they're offering snacks afterwards, you know? And
Well, yes, you can, on those times when we offer snacks, well, we could do it on a rainy day. Of course, you never know ahead with rainy days.
well, okay.
I'm just thinking the after snack things,
You know how I went up to Betsy Evans' house, that maybe I could have brought it and then
Susan's
people are
house.
Susan's and then,
maybe Betsy.
yeah. So I'll see what happens during the journey.
I know that I've talked with Caroline about having Trinity come to talk about monarch
Oh,
butterflies.
yeah, nice. We'll get the wildlife sightings in first.
Yes, let's do that. You know, we I didn't bring it up when we were talking about what do we want to look for, but like the spotted salamanders and things that I sometimes come up, those would count for wildlife sightings, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes I see them.
I think that you're gonna have to beef up your list. You hadn't finished.
I hadn't finished.
I know. You have so many sightings.
You know,
Oh, I have a Zoom I have to go to. That's not yet. Okay.
Yes, I think we're pretty much done, right?
Okay.
All right.
All right. I will see if we can get him sooner rather than later.
Do we have to do thank you, do we have to make a motion to?
Yes.
We do?
Would you
Like
like
this
to?
official, I'll make a motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, Milady.
It passes and we are now finished.